All right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get started. So if you would please find a seat, or if you're in the gathering space, if you want to stay out there and eat and talk, just make sure you can see through the doors because we do have some videos during the program. I'm just going to stay up here. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I hope that you are sufficiently stuffed with good Southern food. All Laurie's favorite foods. So I'm Reverend Dan Adolphson, as the Associate Pastor here at First Christian, and I am so happy to welcome you into the program. This is just going to be, we have speakers, we have videos, again, Laurie, so get your Kleenex. And I would like to begin the program by welcoming to the podium Reverend Dr. Caroline Lewis from Luther Seminary.
I am so honored to be here and to be a part of this celebration for Laurie. Thank you for the invitation. Back in the day, although some preachers still stick to this, the format for preaching was 3 points and a poem. I have 3 points, but no poem. And we were to keep our remarks brief, and retirement remarks are often like preaching or sermons. They are better as biscuits are with shortening. Speaking of the South, so biscuits are better with shortening, so are retirement remarks. These are my 3 remarks. First of all, I was so blessed to have Laurie as a student of mine in our Doctor of Ministry program at Luther Seminary in Biblical Preaching. So that's the first thing I want to say, is her commitment to preaching the Word is just remarkable. And as you all know, and many of you have come up to me affirming that, your gift of preaching, Laurie, and your gift of sharing God's Word for the entire world that God loves. What a remarkable ministry and legacy you are leaving, that commitment to preaching, which we need now more than ever, so now you're retiring. But thank you for that commitment, and to make the commitment to get a doctorate in preaching and to take that time and do that research. And I know some of you were involved in that program with her. So that's the first thing, that your gift of preaching, I know that no one will ever forget. The second is your presence in pastoral care. I mean, one of the things that I experienced as your professor and now as a friend is just how incredibly pastoral you are, of listening and paying attention, attentiveness. I noticed that with your classmates at Luther. And that gets me to my third point, which, I had to get a little bit of John in here. Yes. But John is my favorite gospel, as Laurie knows. But when I thought about my remarks for today, I thought how you have been that pastoral presence that Jesus embodies as the paraclete, the one who walks alongside people, right? That's what Jesus, when he describes his ministry, he describes himself as the paraclete. And all I could think about for today, or one of the major things I thought about for today, was how you are leaving this church like Jesus did in the farewell discourse. I will not leave you orphaned. I will not abandon you. I have accompanied you, and you will still be accompanied. And you've accompanied also my students at Luther, commitment to preaching by teaching labs, and believe me, listening to beginning sermons. That's a very special gift. So thank you for your commitment to preaching, your pastoral presence, and your accompaniment, your companionship. You're walking alongside these people and the people in your ministry with such grace and such love. Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce to you the Reverend Dr. Dwayne Davis from Plymouth Congregational Church and one of Laurie's colleagues in the Downtown Senior Clergy Group.
I don't have 3 points, but yeah, I did, yes. Yes, I was in that same program. That's my professor too, by the way. Thank you all for allowing me just this moment, and it is indeed an honor. I think, even a little bit of surprise that they would give me the microphone on this day. I know Laurie knows so many people. But I want to just talk about being a colleague of Laurie and how powerful that relationship has been in my work. And anybody knows in progressive religious circles know that Spring House is an essential part of the work we do, the organizing, the collaboration, the ecumenical and interfaith work that we do. So when I came to Minneapolis about 12 years ago and started joining this, Laurie was one of those people I met and saw, and I think we first connected over discovering that we both were from Mississippi. And we could talk, food and region and all of that kind of thing. But it was when I became lead minister of Plymouth Congregational Church. I had known about the Minneapolis Downtown Clergy Group, but I did not know Laurie sat at that table. And so when I joined that group, the relationship went even deeper, because that is a table where not only do we share what's going on in our ministries, but we also talk about what it would mean to bring a voice of faith into downtown, into the city, into the culture. What are we proclaiming and witnessing to? And what I learned and experienced from Laurie is a fearlessness. No matter what the situation was, no matter how fraught it could have been, no matter how much sacrifice it would make, Laurie could be counted on to just speak up. And as someone who was new to that table, it was an invitation not to sit back, not to shrink, especially because you are surrounded by very big, wealthy churches. But it was an invitation. Say the truth. Proclaim what needs to be proclaimed in this circle. And then it's an adage, but I think there's some truth to it. You really don't know somebody until you travel with them. The downtown, you really find out about people when you travel, when you have to get up every day and do the things that you're going to do on a trip. The downtown clergy decided to take a civil rights tour in Georgia and Alabama, and Laurie was on the planning team for that, pretty much guiding our entire trip. to all of the civil rights stops, all of the memorials, meeting with community leaders and doing that work. But in addition to, so you get to know people when you travel with them. You get to know, even when they're a little annoyed, you get to know when they got something to say that has to come through. But the two most important things in that trip, one, is she really is a Southern girl. Every restaurant we chose was good old soul food, and I was appreciative of it. But more importantly, every place that we stopped, wonderful community leaders. I don't know how she found them, how she knew them, but we were able to be in relationship with people doing good justice work in Alabama and in Georgia. And it made the trip that much more powerful. It made me realize that her work goes everywhere she goes. And Dr. Lewis said it too, the pastoral presence. And that's also where I got to see the depth of her pastoral presence. There were so many sites on that civil rights tour where the heaviness of what we were seeing, the trying to hold it together and be, especially personally for me, there were periods in that trip where the heaviness was just that acute. And yet my friend Laurie was there to hold and to listen. And so it is indeed true that you get to know people when you travel with them, because all of the things that I had learned up until that moment were reinforced in the middle of that experience. Thank you, Laurie. I am a little bit jealous that you are retiring because I know you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful next phase of your life and ministry. God bless you and enjoy it. I know you will.
Many of us thought that the existence of the Springhouse arrangement would be a really important magnet to attract a first-rate, experienced senior pastor. We couldn't have been more prophetic and accurate. When I took the opportunity to take Laurie and Brian to the Capri concert series of leading black jazz singers in the Twin Cities and saw their response, I knew we were right. After watching her work through her dissertation, the realities of the world that descended on us in Gaza, in COVID, in George Floyd, we couldn't have been more fortunate, or I certainly don't feel I could have been more fortunate to have a pastor who preached and led us in thinking through those issues. I wish her well, but I'll always be thinking of the stories that we got to hear when she and Brian took the grandchildren on their special trips and learned from them as well as learned with them. We've been very fortunate, and I feel very lucky. Laurie, Brian, wish you well. Godspeed.
Hey, Mima. I've heard that you're retiring soon, and you're going to retirement. I am so happy for you, and I wish the best for you. You deserve it. You deserve everything, and hopefully you can get a break to do the things that you want. Hopefully you can come over more in the future, and you can take us to Target and Best Buy. Or maybe the family over here can travel, have a Thanksgiving with you guys in Minnesota. Either way, I am just so happy for you, and I hope the best for you. God bless you, and I love you so much. Thank you for everything you have done for me and my family, for everyone, in your church, literally everything. Thank you especially for taking me to Spain. It was one of the best moments of my life that I could remember as a teenager. You are the nicest person in the family, and I wish you the best. I love you so much, and congratulations.
Hi, Mima. So I heard that you are going to retire, and I just want to say that I'm glad that you're retiring, and that I love you so much. And maybe we can go to Target more, and maybe we can hang out more often. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, and I love you so much. And I'm so happy that you're retired. Love you.
Hello. Happy?
Anniversary.
No.
Nope. Retirement.
Retirement.
We are
So,
Happy.
for you.
to,
Retire.
We
You can't say the same.
are
thinking,
Happy.
thoughts for
you,
And
we look
forward,
two.
seeing more
of,
Retirement.
you. We love you. Congratulations.
Yes, Mama.
yeah, that was more than one word. We love you.
We love you.
My dearest American mom, my dearest Laurie, congratulations on your retirement. It's hard to believe that the time has come, but when you look back at all the great things you have done in your work, all the people that you helped and inspired, and all the positive difference that you made in the world, you can be proud of yourself. I know that we're all proud of you. You're an amazing person, and there is really not enough time in this couple of minute video to say all the things that are in my heart when I mention your name. I'll never forget the first time we met in Arkansas in year 2000 in Franklin Camp, when our souls clicked the first time. After that, you helped me, enabled me, and gave me opportunity to come to the United States and study at Texas Christian University, where I became a horned frog with proud. The time I spent in the United States was some of the best time of my life and some of the best memories in my life. I'll never forget all the great memories I have with you and Brian, all the great Christmases we spent together, where you made that holiday really special to me and actually made it my own holiday, even though I'm a Muslim. I'll also never forget the great times we spent with my parents as well when they were visiting the United States, and all the great Christmases that we cherished together. There's so much to say, but most important, I want you to know that we love you and I love you very much, and you will always be part of our family. So you do have a Bosnian family for the rest of your life. So now when you're in retirement, I really hope that you will find time and be able to visit us sometimes. We will be delighted to host you and Brian and to see you again and create some new memories together. I also think that you'll be very proud of me. I have done pretty well since I graduated from TCU, and I also am doing my best to continue your legacy of helping people, inspiring people, and doing the best for this world. I love you very much, and I feel so blessed that you're part of my life and that you are part of my life. Volim tebe puno više, and as we would say, I love you more, and really hope to see you again, and please pass along my love to Brian and your family. Hope to see you soon, and enjoy your retirement.
And now we will hear from some disciples' denominational voices, and we'll begin with Reverend Josh Patty, our regional minister.
Thank you, Dan. Laurie, this morning, David did an excellent job inviting us to the table. Good. David did an excellent job of inviting us to the table. And I was reminded again of how important the table is and communion is for our faith and the way it shapes our communities, but I think it's the way it shapes us personally, right? One of the great gifts of ministry. There are burdens, we've talked about some of those, but one of the great gifts of ministry, particularly in our tradition, is the opportunity to say yes in different places, and you have done so. And the table gets bigger every time we say yes. It gets bigger because we can see a little bit more like God sees, because we can see more people, more actual people, not just a horde of blurry faces, but people with their stories and their traditions that are a little bit or sometimes a lot different than ours, right? And it's such a gift to share with them, and it makes us bigger. It makes us better, but mostly it makes this table bigger. And then it gives us the opportunity as ministers to invite others to experience a bigger table. And I think that shapes your ministry, right? That you have called us again and again to experience, to celebrate at a bigger table. And that's a great gift that I have no doubt you will continue to do in other ways in your retirement. But we celebrate that. And as I was thinking about just some of the things you've done in our region, I'm not going to mention all of them. I'm limited, time limited. But I'm struck by how that theme is present, that invitation to experience more, because it's never just been about you. That's the way good ministry is. It's never just about us, but how true for you. When there was a need, and this is before my time, I can take no credit. When there was a need for an anti-racism team in this region to start again, you were one of the leading voices and continue to be to make that happen. And she is an invaluable voice on the action team because she knows that talk is only worth so much, that action is what is necessary. Invaluable. It's a bigger table. You served on our committee on ministry for so many years to help shape people and nurture people in their discernment process. But not just that, she helped reimagine our region's discernment process and make it stronger. It's a gift to the whole church. It's a gift to our region, but it's a gift to the whole church. And then when you did your DMin, when a lot of studies encourage us sometimes to be a little insular, right? To see how will this strengthen my ministry? And there's no criticism of the seminary or ministry because that's part of academia. But your work product was what? Disciples' public presence was one of them, right? Why? Because your vision of ministry is, how does this help others? How does this make the table? I don't know if you put it in your, but how does it make the table bigger for all of us? That's what you've done in a nutshell. It's a great gift. It's a gift that will continue. My guess is this is a little bit uncomfortable because you'd like us to focus on the others. But we celebrate you this day because you've lived that gift so well. And my hunch is you've received. You may even feel like you've received more than you've given. That's a God thing. That's a Holy Spirit thing, isn't it? I say all of that as the regional minister in my role as the pastor to the pastors. What I'm about to do, I say not only as the regional minister, but as a member of the College of Regional Ministers. And I say that not because I want a big inflated title, but I want to celebrate that we're celebrating as a congregation, we're celebrating as a region, but this part is about our whole church. And thankfully, Terry is here to represent well the whole of our church. But it's my privilege every time a minister retires to do something on behalf of the whole church. So I'd like you to come forward, Laurie, if you would. Our pension fund provides what is known as the honored minister's pen. It is traditionally given to a minister when they retire. It's called the honored minister's pen, I think, for two very important reasons. One is theological. When you said yes to serving, there wasn't a time limit on it. That yes continues. Ministry changes. The context changes. Your ministry is going to change in retirement, but it doesn't stop in retirement. We celebrate that. More practically, we may lean on you. We may call you. You may call us and say, this needs to happen, and I'm going to go forward and make it happen. So for those reasons, we don't call it the retired minister's pen. We call it the honored minister's pen. But it's meant to represent the whole church's appreciation and celebration of your ministry, and particularly this day, your retirement, and the next chapters that God has for you and for us. So thank you so much. Thank you. My great pleasure.
Greetings to each of you who have gathered to honor and celebrate the ministry of Reverend Dr. Laurie. I add my congratulations, Dr. Laurie, for your faithful service, and I ask God's blessings as you move from congregational ministry to whatever it is that God will ask of you in the days and the years ahead. For those who do not know me, and that's probably most of you, my name is Martha A. Brown, and I currently serve as chairperson of the Board of Directors of Disciples Church Extension Fund. I met Laurie when I joined the board approximately 5.5 years ago. She was chair of the board at that time, and as I got to know her, she reminded me of the certain women Luke mentions in the 8th chapter of his gospel. Permit me to share just a small portion of that text with you. And it came to pass afterward that he, Jesus, went throughout every city and village preaching the glad tidings of the kingdom of God, and the 12 were with him. And certain women, Mary called Magdalene, and Joanna, the wife of Chusa, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others, which ministered unto him of their substance. I have experienced Laurie as a woman who ministered out of her considerable substance. As she served the ministry of the Disciples Church Extension Fund, she ministered in her position of chairperson of the board as one called by Jesus to serve him by serving others. And as I learned from her, I could see that Laurie did not just speak kindness, she is kindness. She did not speak justice, she does justice. Laurie does not talk about the need to change, she instigates the change. She spoke her truth without fear or favor, and does so with respect for the ones for whom her truth might prick in the side. For all of this and more, she won my admiration and respect. When Laurie's term on the board ended, our relationship did not. The impact that she made on me was profound, and so I was glad when we decided that we would continue our budding friendship beyond the Board of Disciples Church Extension Fund. We have been meeting virtually once a month just to check in with each other and to remind ourselves of how each of us has enriched the other's life. I look forward to these meetings, and I am looking forward to hearing more of what Laurie will be doing in retirement. And certain women, Mary and Joanna and Susanna and Laurie and many others, ministered unto him, Jesus, of their substance. Congratulations, Laurie. I send you my warmest regards and my best wishes for the next phase of your ministry. And with these, I also send you my love. May God's blessings be upon you today and always.
Hello and congratulations to my dear friend, my colleague in ministry, the Reverend Laurie Feille. Laurie, you know that part of me simply does not want to let you retire from active ministry. And yet I know you will still continue to be active with the people and causes that matter to you in our society. I'm excited that you and Brian will have time to do what you want to do, time to travel, spend with family and friends. I know that you will make good use of that time, even as those of us who will remain active really regret to see you leave the active scene of ministry. You have served every expression of our church, from congregations to regional ministry, not only in the upper Midwest, but also in the Southwest. You've been faithful on many general ministry boards. You were most recently the chair of the Disciples Church Extension Fund Board. So grateful for all the ways in which you show up and allow God to use your gifts and graces to bless God's church. I'm particularly thinking about the work that you've been doing to serve the causes of justice on behalf of our church. As co-chair of the Disciples Justice Ministries, a collective of various ministries throughout the life of our church who are focused on justice, you have helped to initiate and shepherd that group of disparate ministries and keep them communicating, keep them working together to amplify each other's work, and as a result, amplify the disciples' public presence of our church in the wider communities. Your work at Standing Rock with the regional ministry Disciples Public Presence really became a model for how we address those issues of Indigenous justice, and your continued work on the board of the Center for Indigenous Justice and involvement with the Winter Talk program has helped me to come alongside to ensure that we find a better way for the church to commit to the work of Indigenous ministries. And it's in large part because of your mentoring and education on so many issues that I have been so personally involved with the Center for Indigenous Ministries. So grateful for you and for Brian. From the very first time we met, which is a funny story, we were walking in Indianapolis at the 2017 General Assembly. I was the nominee. Walter and I were walking over to the Indiana State Capitol for a rally where William Barber would speak. All of a sudden, I heard someone say, "Hello, hello." And you and Brian were behind us, and you introduced yourself to us. And from that point on, it seemed every corner we turned at General Assembly, there you were. You have become such a good friend. You've become a great colleague, and I know that that friendship will last beyond both of our active ministries. Thank you, Laurie, for your good work, for the kind of pastor that you've been, for the kind of mentor that you've been, for the kind of servant leader that you have been, First Christian Minneapolis, as it has shared space with another congregation and sort of modeled what it looks like to really be in community. Your presence and activism in the city of Minneapolis during so many difficult moments in recent years allowed us as disciples to stand tall, knowing that we were well represented. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you so much. The church owes you a debt of gratitude for the work that you have done. We're a better church because you've served us. And I count you again as a dear friend and colleague, and I'm going to look forward to still continuing to see you. And perhaps I might find an assignment or two where your energy and gifts and graces won't take too much of your time, but where we can continue to benefit from your commitments and from the tremendous way in which God has gifted you. Thank you so much, First Christian Church of Minneapolis, for ensuring that Laurie knows your love and feels your love as she closes her active ministry. Remember, Laurie, God loves you, and so do I. Walter sends his love, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take good care, my friend. God bless you. What do they say? Beam me up, Scotty, beam me up. So good again to be here. And I took the opportunity, I told Dan, I don't need to do anything, but I think the weight of Laurie's presence and ministry in our denomination is worthy of every acknowledgement of it. And I get to be a lot of places, and I get to be with a lot of different congregations, a lot of pastors, and a lot of things across the U.S. and Canada. And you all have had a wonderful relationship here with First Christian Minneapolis. I experienced the worship this morning, and I was like, oh my goodness, such energy, such joy, such creativity, such love. And so First Christian Minneapolis, perhaps this word is for you. You've been blessed, you've been changed. You have seen and done things perhaps that you hadn't thought of or done before. And I think I would ask you that as you, I love the peace of your heart. I've cried more today. I'm like, I'm not retiring. It's Laurie's retiring. She has made an imprint, right? It's like once you step your foot into the waters never flow the same way again. And I hope, my home pastor always said, love is not to be paid back. It's to be passed on. And so if you've learned anything, if you've grown, if you've developed, then I hope that when you make your next choice, you will remember who you have become and find a way to ask God to send you that next challenge, that next bright light that will lead you forward because there is so much ahead of you. And of course, to Brian and to Laurie, I was so glad to hear that she's going to still do Disciples Justice Ministries and Disciples Public Presence. We were talking shop downstairs earlier about some things, and she knows sometimes the arrows fly. But my friend, I will just say again, God loves you, and so do I. I've been so grateful to get to serve with you in this way, and that it's not over. But I've now gotten the opportunity to see this local congregational impact, and God has done a great thing here through you. And I hope you are all grateful. And remember, you can't ever repay her, but what you can do is pass it on so that in years to come, when she sees the imprint, she'll be grateful that you haven't strayed far from where she led you, because I really do believe she is leading you in the paths of righteousness, just as God has taught us to love God and love neighbor. So hold on to that piece of her that you keep, and let God lead you toward leadership that will allow you to still be the same wonderful, powerful, loving church that you are. God bless you all. Laurie and Brian, God bless you.
And now I'd like to invite to the lectern Mike Cassano, a member of this congregation, and was head of Laurie's PRC, but he's going to talk about something fun, I understand.
Somewhat. Well, like Dan said, I was one of the co-chairs with Dean Creighton of the search committee that brought Laurie here to First. in that December of 2012. Fresh off the heat and relative warmth of North Texas to the frozen tundra here in Minneapolis, one of the things that Laurie stood out to the search committee was her interest in focusing on outreach both locally and globally. Soon after Laurie's arrival here, plans began to form for ways for First Christian to become more involved in outreach via service and learning. Within her first few months here, Laurie was talking about planning a mission trip renamed Servant Trip to Detroit, Michigan. There were those who thought she was crazy, wanting to go to Detroit, an inner city area within well-known issues of crime, vandalism, poverty. But she had a good set of friends there, Carl and Robin Zerwick, who had started an outreach mission called Rippling Hope. They had worked directly with neighborhood groups in Northwest Detroit to help homeowners with small group projects like interior and exterior painting, fence repair, property upkeep, cleanup, accessibility issues, lock repairs, plumbing repairs, and the like. She approached me and my wife Lou, knowing that I grew up just outside of Detroit and still had close family ties to the area, to see if we would be interested in helping get a group together to go for a week. We agreed to be part of it, not realizing at the time how involved we would end up being in the servant trip activities of First Christian Church. That year, the summer of 2013, there was not a lot of interest here at First Christian, or Springhouse for that matter, in going to Detroit. Let's just say there were many, and I mean many, who expressed their doubt and concern about going to a place like Detroit, which had been in the news quite frequently for how run down and dangerous it had become. So there were only 4 of us that went on that first servant trip with Laurie: myself, my wife Lou, and Steve Rusinek. Good timing, Steve. He just walked in the back door. But we had a wonderful experience. We came home with some great stories about the people we met, the projects we worked on, and the commitment of the people of Northwest Detroit, who were determined to reclaim their neighborhood. The following summer, we managed to convince a few more folks: my brother-in-law Jim, my daughter Allie, and Barb Creighton, to join the original 4. For a return trip, so the 7 of us went on a second trip to Detroit. Again, we had a wonderful experience helping homeowners with small projects so they were able to stay in their homes and show pride in their neighborhood. Some of these families had been in their homes for 40, 50, even 60 years, and were not ready to give up on a place that had been a part of them for so long. After 2 successful domestic servant trips, we were ready to take our first international trip. Needless to say, there was much more greater interest in this. After many, many meetings and fundraisers, a group of 25 of us from Springhouse set off for Paraguay in the summer of 2015. We spent 2 weeks in Paraguay with a side trip to Brazil, because if you're in the area, you really should see as much of the beauty and the creation you can, working with and learning about the people of Paraguay and the history of the Disciples Church in the country. The success of Paraguay trip led to way more participation the following summer in 2016 when we went back to Detroit, which included a day trip to Sarnia, Canada. Ask Laurie sometime what it means to be getting jumped at the border. The summer of 2017 was the servant trip to Nicaragua. In the partnership with the Project Minnesota Leon, which is a nonprofit sister state organization that has 2 goals. 1, to bring together people from Minnesota and Leon, Nicaragua, so they can grow in their understanding of one another as individuals and cultures. And 2, to facilitate community development in Leon, Nicaragua, where people organize and act collectively to improve their quality of life. There were 24 participants on that trip, and we all had a great time, living with local families, working and learning together, and seeing the beauty of Central America. Summer of 2018, took us back to Detroit once more with Rippling Hope. Once again, we had a great participation from all Springhouse, with 14 of us making the trip, including a mix of new and seasoned participants. In 2019, saw us taking a break from traveling while Laurie earned her PhD from Luther Seminary. But plans were being made during our off year, for a return trip to Paraguay in 2020. Unfortunately, that trip never happened because of COVID-19. I never imagined when I agreed to be on the search committee to find our senior minister back in 2012 how much my life would have changed by bringing Laurie here. I'm the only one that served on the search committee, but also on Laurie's pastoral relations committee for the entire 12 years. On an extremely personal note, she was and continues to be a very strong support to me and my family as we dealt with a very serious illness, hospitalization, and continued recovery for our son, Zach. From traveling with Laurie around North, Central, and South America, some of my favorite memories are here. Teaching her about what a Michigan left is and how to execute one. Showing her the beauty of the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. Learning that holding a ladder for someone is not among her strong suits. Neither is running down a side of a volcano. That she loves to sing while driving long distances. Think everything from Beyonce's Single Ladies, from the old TV show Green Acres. Pastoral Babe is a fantastic nickname for her. Thank you, Tim Leach. That she loves to remind people when they make a mistake of not calling their grandmother to say that they're going to be in town. Random texts are well loved and often used as a way to keep in touch with her friends. Backing up large vehicles is not among her gifts. She's also not good at remembering to put the gas cap back on after filling up the gas tank of the church bus. This is a personalized gas cap made by John Krengle. Thanks, John. To commemorate our many miles traveled together on behalf of First Christian Trip. Printed on it are the names of the original 4 that went to Detroit. It was on that trip that Laurie left the gas cap on the church bus, off the church bus, at a gas station in Iowa. Along with that year in 2013, and Rippling Hope printed on it, we hope that when you see this, Laurie, you'll be reminded of all the fun times we had together on our many adventures. And now I'll close with the very wise words of Max Herlacher. Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite to the lectern our Springhouse colleagues, Pastor Rhonda from Salem, Pastor Rebecca from Lindale, and Chelsea, who we still think you're our intern, and our Springhouse youth minister.
I said I'd only do this for like 30 or 40 minutes, but I'm losing my voice, so. Let me start by saying that I went after worship this morning to print my remarks, and my computer battery was dead. So I'm doing this from memory, which I'm sure you will agree is very much me, and no surprise to anyone. Some of you know that I didn't want this call. I wasn't looking for a call. The synod called and begged me to preach for 6 weeks before the interim arrived, and after 3 days of begging, I said yes. So I came, and they said, literally, Rhonda, you have to walk in the door and preach and leave. You don't have to do anything else. And along the way, I met Pastor Laurie and Pastor Dan and Pastor Rebecca and Pastor Ashley, just in the hallways. I wasn't looking for a call, but they asked for my papers anyway, and I said, why not? So when they called me and asked me to be the candidate, they said, there's something you have to do. There's part of our covenant is that any pastor is going to receive a call at Springhouse needs to meet with the other clergy in the building before they're called. I don't know, maybe some veto power. So I was a little bit concerned when we were going to meet for coffee. Laurie doesn't know this, but we met, well, she knows this. We met at the Starbucks at Target in Fridley, and it changed my life because I had been an associate pastor for 15 years, was never trained or equipped to be a solo pastor, didn't want to be a solo pastor, had no interest in this call, and really was trying to figure out a way to get out of it. And I sat down for coffee with Pastor Laurie, and her enthusiasm for me as a human being and for this place as a place of ministry changed my mind. And I said, all right, let's give this a try. I came here not knowing anything about being a solo pastor, and I will tell you that Laurie never let me drown. She always was there and always has been there to help me through when I had no idea what I was doing. And so I am incredibly grateful. One of the beautiful things about Springhouse that people don't realize is that the clergy colleagues here get to be truly collegial, because you are not my boss and I am not your boss, and we don't have the same boss. And so we can be completely authentic with each other. And that is something that I find to be so incredibly important and allows us to do gospel work in this place. I will say that you have been a mentor and a colleague and a friend, and I cannot thank you enough for that. So personally, that's, for me, one of the most important things, is that you have helped shape my ministry and brought me to a place that I love. Today, I've been here 9 years. Can you believe that? And you were one of the people that welcomed me here. Now, Rebecca and I made a list of Springhouse things that we just have to mention. I don't know why they're laughing. And so we divided them up. And so I would be remiss not to thank you for making me part of your doctoral thesis. It was such a joy and such a amazing experience for us to work with you, and it changed my ministry forever. The servant trips that Mike talks about, you invited Springhouse to be part of those, and I traveled with you to Nicaragua and to Detroit. But more than that, and on a personal note, my eldest son, who's 20 now, traveled with us to Nicaragua and Detroit, and you became one of the people in his life that he knows and trusts and loves. A little thing called COVID. I remember March 13th, we were standing in Esther, and I believe it was Pastor Ashley and you and I. We were standing down there, and we all stood and looked at each other and said, well, we better plan to be gone for a couple weeks. We walked together for 18 months before we ever came back in this building, and that was hard, and we did it because we had the relationship we did, and so I appreciate your leadership and your ability to be nimble with all of us. 2 more things on my list. Sanctuary switch. As a lifelong Lutheran, I will tell you that it is one of the scariest and best things that I have ever been part of. But good gravy, they could not prepare me for it. So thank you for being there for all of those sanctuary switches when none of us knew what was happening and we're all moving in different directions. But what joy we had. All of the times that we have sat and laughed at the things and the hijinks that are happening when we're moving everything we own. I remember toward the end of COVID, you and I were standing in the hallway and we had not switched sanctuaries for it was over a year, which was not the norm. And I remember very clearly you and I standing in the hallway, and I said, I really love the garden sanctuary. It's just kind of become home. It's really easy. It's close to my office. And you said, yeah, we really love the South Sanctuary. And we looked at each other and we said, oh, we better switch sanctuaries. Because that's who Springhouse is. And then finally, my final word is about baptisms at Springhouse. I know that we baptize into our own congregations. That is clear. But when I look up as I am baptizing a child at Salem, and all the eyes of all the members of Springhouse are present at that baptism, there is nothing that describes church better to me than that moment. And when you are in the baptistry and you are baptizing members of First Christian, and you look up and you see your Springhouse family staring back at you, there is nothing that describes church better than that. And I don't think anyone can understand what Springhouse is without understanding that. So thank you for being part of that. Thank you for changing my life and my ministry. And thank you for being my friend.
Soon after Laurie was called to First Christian, she and I started taking walks around Lake Nokomis. It became almost a weekly routine, walking, talking, drinking iced tea, and having a cookie afterwards. We got to know each other, shared stories about our histories and lives, and always ended with a sweet treat. One of our topics was how someone from Louisiana and Mississippi and Texas could survive in Minnesota. And I shared what someone shared with me when I moved here. There is no such thing as bad weather, only inappropriate clothing. I also shared my own philosophy that the best way to make it through winter was to completely embrace it. Ice skate, ski, snowshoe, walk. And to my sheer delight, Laurie was completely game. We walked no matter what the weather, and we started cross-country skiing. Those early personal experiences taught me about your playful and adventuresome nature. I always remember the time we were skiing on Lake Nokomis and came upon the warm spring that feeds the lake, where the ice was actually very thin. We did end up skiing more after that, but I know that your trust in me took a hit. I won't share the exact words shared, but yes. Those early experiences also taught me about your intellect and faithfulness. And I am deeply grateful for all 4 of those characteristics. And I have found them to come through in our shared ministry here at Springhouse. In all of our joint services, there has almost always been a moment when the pastors need to be separated because we are laughing at something one of us has said or done. I have a memory, particularly of a shared outdoor worship service where it was so windy and we absolutely could not stop everything from blowing over. And we finally just gave it up at a point of ridiculousness and laughed. Soon after George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police, Dan, Rhonda, Laurie, and I participated together in the silent march to what is now George Floyd Square. And Laurie and I were in DC for the Poor People's Campaign. And Laurie wearing her LGBTQ plus ally shirt every week in worship. And Laurie doing her DMIN project on preaching racial justice. And Laurie providing leadership to National Disciples Justice efforts. And all of us co-leading our shared Palm Sunday commemorations. In all of it, Reverend Dr. Laurie Feille, you bring playfulness, a sense of adventure, and a profound sense of justice, all of which is rooted in your deep, deep faith. I will miss all of your laughter, adventure, justice-making, and all the ways you model what being a faithful Christian looks like. May God continue to call you and bless you in your good and sacred troublemaking and in your rest and retirement.
Similar to Rhonda, and this is so me, I did not have the chance to print off what I was going to say, so I have it on my phone, which is so me. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Chelsea. I am the youth minister here at Springhouse, but also this past year, up until like 3 weeks ago, I was the intern here at First Christian. And that meant I had the privilege and the honor of working closely with Laurie, which is why it is such a gift and an honor to stand here today and say a few words as we celebrate her retirement. And when I first started as the intern, I was really just at the beginning of discerning and beginning to understand what ministry really looked like for me beyond the classroom or outside my existing role as a youth minister. Laurie met me right where I was with enthusiasm and also patience, and also challenged me because I am very introverted and she is not. And also with genuine trust. And I'll be honest, the trust she gave me and the space that she offered me to lead and to speak and make decisions was scary. I didn't always feel ready for that kind of responsibility, but looking back, I realized that kind of trust was one of the greatest gifts that she could have given me, and taught me so much and pushed me to grow and to rely on the Spirit and God, not just my own preparation. And it helped me begin to discover who I was and I'm still really called to be. I could spend a very long time up here sharing all the things that I learned from my experience as the intern or as my time as youth minister, but I think I would get a very disapproving look from Dan because I would go over my time or my mic would get cut. So I will not, but I will share what is some of the most profound learnings of my time that I gained from observing and participating, was specifically observing Laurie in regular everyday moments with people she served and cared about. And I witnessed how she stayed grounded in tough conversations, and how she moved through hard seasons with grace, and how she never lost her sense of humor or her deep faith and trust in God. And her presence was both thoughtful and playful, steady and compassionate. And being around that kind of leadership has shaped me in ways, in the way I think about ministry and the kind of pastor that I want to be. And of course, I can't forget about our regular Monday meetings, which in theory were for ministry planning or reflection. And I would be lying if that wasn't also, there wasn't a little gossip thrown in, right? But those weekly check-ins turned into some of the most grounding and life-giving hours of my week. And there was planning and there was gossip, but there's also so much laughter and honesty that lived in those conversations. And we would talk about church, people, the Spirit, calling, and sometimes all of that in the same breath. And there was always wisdom in what Laurie shared, even when she didn't mean for it to be profound. And more than anything, she made those meetings a space where I could show up fully as an intern and as a minister and as myself. And one moment that I will never forget came at the end of the fall semester when Laurie and I were going through my final evaluation for the internship. And we both had to fill it out separately. They were the exact same questions, but she filled it out as supervisor and for me as self-evaluation. And I think maybe it's like the last question, I don't know. But one of them asked if Laurie believed I was ready for ministry. And I will never forget how she seemed kind of offended at that question and was like, and she looked at me and she was like, you already are doing ministry. You already are a minister. And that moment has stayed with me. It wasn't just like the affirmation, but how it was a reflection of how deeply she saw me and how much trust she had in me. And I will also confess that I am not Disciples of Christ. Oopsie. I am a member. I am a member in discernment. Right. I know, but I'm a member in discernment in the United Church of Christ, and I grew up ELCA. But throughout the entirety of my internship, Laurie has said very firmly, like, I don't care that you're not technically disciples of Christ. You will always be disciples, whether you like it or not. And don't let her know, but I do like it. And that is just who Laurie is. She is so abundant with her love and how much she really sees you. And the truth is that is how she sees all of us. And she believes in people, and she believes in the youth at First Christian and Springhouse. And she sees people fully and has a way of making people feel truly seen, not just for who they might be someday, but for who they are right now. And that kind of love changes people, and it has changed me profoundly. And being around that kind of presence has shown me that the faithful ministry is often about choosing to see people fully, patiently, and with love right where they are. And Laurie in her ministry has done that again and again, and it changed the way I think about what it means to be a pastor and a minister. And again, I am not that far removed from being the intern, as Dan was saying, literally 3 weeks ago, not even a month apart, but regardless, I still find myself returning to the things I've learned from her and her integrity and her commitment to community and justice and her deep faith and care for the people around her, continuing to inspire how I serve. So Laurie, I am so grateful for the ways you've shaped me and believed in me and walked alongside me. Your presence in my life and in this church has been a gift. And as you step into this new season, know I love you so much. And know that you leave behind a ministry that has truly mattered. So congratulations to you and to Brian. The youth love you so much. Olivia and I love you so much. And thank you so much.
And now it's the staff's turn. Dr. Caroline Pavoni, our music director, Deb Murphy, our director of spiritual formation for children, and me.
Okay. She told you to be nice. Good luck. Okay, I wrote down a bunch of things, and I'm not going to say them all because you've been sitting here very patiently for a long time. In trying to think about what Laurie means to me, one moment just really stuck out for me, and I'm going to cry. And this is a really personal story, but I'm going to tell it anyway. A few years ago, my husband and I were struggling with infertility and really trying to grow our family. And I had a moment where I came to church, and I was struggling. I was struggling with my relationship with God. I was struggling with my relationship with showing up to church and pretending it was okay. And I just said to her, I can't do it. And she stopped everything she was doing, in the busyness of getting ready for a church service. She stopped everything she was doing. She said, okay, take a deep breath. Just get through today. We can talk about that later, if that's really how you feel. But don't make any decisions right now. Just take a deep breath and get through today. And you know what? If it had been anybody else in that moment, I don't think I'd be here right now. I think that would have been it, because I wanted to isolate and I wanted to pull away and I wanted to just grieve it on my own. And Laurie was there in that moment, and she was inclusive in that moment. And she said, however you show up after this is fine. And I said, I'll be okay next week. She said, if you're not, that's okay. Just show up. So that's what Laurie is. She's inclusive. She's there no matter what. She's not here to just get a job done. She's here to minister to everybody. That's what I got. I have 3 things I have to say from the section leaders, too, that are not quite so personal. Tyler says you're the reason he stayed after subbing in. He heard you speak and knew that this was a place that could be home for him as a church. Katie says, thanks for always knowing where D flat is. And being a better sight reader than her sometimes. And John says, thanks for protecting him when he wanders in 10 minutes late.
I'm Deb Murphy, and I was on the search committee that hired Laurie. Her article in the newsletter said that I was part of the reason she came, and I want to know, am I taking blame or credit? It's the blame? Okay, that's kind of what I thought, but I thought I'd double check it. Okay. I was the person on the search committee that would make phone calls with different candidates saying, are you interested in having a telephone interview? So I called Laurie. I got an outgoing message. She was out of the country, would be back on such and such a day, and would return calls then. And so I left her a message saying, Deb Murphy, First Christian Church, we've gotten your papers, want to know if you're still interested, and give me a call back, and left my number. And I did get a call back. And those phone calls usually took 5 minutes. Our phone call took 20. She also wanted to know when I said, so how was your trip? How'd you know I was gone? It was on your outgoing message. That should have been my first clue. So Laurie didn't actually start until December 1st, but on November 7th, I had knee replacement surgery. She called me, I think the very next day, if not day of, and called me 2 to 3 times a week after that, before she even moved up here. She was already my pastor, and that's Laurie. She takes care of people. Now, winter was a challenge for her. I remember the day she came in and was in tears because Brian was out of town and the dogs didn't want to go outside because it was so cold and their paws hurt. Laurie, have you got an old tarp or blanket you could put out? They could walk out on that, and then we'd be, oh, that'll work. And then one of the news channels had a veterinarian on the news program saying, okay, this is what's going to be happening, and this is what you're going to need to do. And it's like, okay, we'll live through it. It'll be fine. I did a lot of that. Then she asked me when we finally broke through to spring, sometime after Easter. And she said, Deb, can I ask you something? I said, sure. What? Were people afraid I was going to leave because of winter? I went, well, yeah, you hadn't sold your house yet, so you could at least easily gone back home. Yeah, we were prepping for that in our own brains. Now, I did, as the office administrator at the time, I learned that Laurie's calendar challenged. As we were heading into Lent, there's all sorts of planning that has to happen. And Laurie came out of her office one day, running up the stairs to where I was, going, in a panic, Deb, what are we going to do for Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday next week? Laurie, they're not for 2 more weeks. She did that 2 more times. I spent an awful lot of time just going, no, Laurie, not yet. Calm down, it'll be fine. Then the worship committee meeting where we were planning the Easter service, Laurie had this wonderful idea, have a cross, they put flowers on it, so it'd be, Easter morning, floral covered cross. Everybody could bring flowers out of their gardens and their yards. And we all looked at her and went, but we often have snow on Easter. The look on her face was like, but what'll we do? I mean, we'll buy flowers. It'll work. We can make this work. So there were some adjustments that our Southern girl had to make. Then when we did a Tenebrae service, Laurie was wanting to have somebody in a monk's costume that would come up and light a candle, and we do more service, and then come up and light a candle. And Laurie said, it would be great if we had a monk's costume. And everybody just started laughing because I'm a theater costumer and I work at the Guthrie. And that's easy, okay. But she didn't know why we were laughing. I was like, no, I can do a monk's robe. It's good. We can manage that. And we had many different conversations. And I remember one where Laurie was saying, Deb, I'm really missing mission work, servant trips. Really, really miss it. So we had quite a lengthy conversation. Out of that conversation came mission at our doorstep, which is something that we still do. And then the servant trips came after that. But it's just conversations. I was present when Dan and Laurie were talking about disciples' public presence. and it just all gelled. And that's what working with Laurie is like. It's something is brought up, and the next thing you know, somebody's implementing it. Whether it's Anna and I doing something with the communion table. Laurie always says, I can throw a piece of cloth on the table and it looks good, and she throws it on the table and it looks like she threw it on the table. But, you know, we all have our skills. Now, we first started ministry together. We picked a theme. One year it was art, and then there was fabric, and then poetry and photography. And we would have something to do with the theme for that whole year. And then when we did fabric, I went to town and made all sorts of banners and just had a grand old time. Photography, I had people send me photography, and we would post it around the sanctuary, depending on which sanctuary we were in. But there would be a seed of an idea that would expand, and we would get everybody involved. Now, I do a lot with fabric, and I remember when Tammy Rothschafer was going to be ordained, Laurie and I talked about, well, maybe I should make a stole that the congregation could give to her at her ordination. And I thought that was great. I had an idea, perfect, yes, I'd love to do that. So at the board meeting, Laurie tells the board, well, we're going to make a stole to give to Tammy. And the people on the board kind of looked at me and went, you, right? And I went, yeah, me. She talked to you about this, right? Yeah, she did. Okay. But from then on, it was we made the stoles. It was sort of the royal we, but not really. There are an awful lot of highlights over the years. One of the things that I remember and had the most fun with was dramatizing scripture with First Christian Players. Several of you here were in those, and still some of my favorite. This is from one of them during Advent. It's true. Yeah, the 5'10" was baby Jesus, a long time ago. So then she introduced us to Mardi Gras and King Cake, which somebody asked, the band, as they were leaving, said, you guys are still going to do this even if Laurie isn't here, right? And I was like, oh yeah, no, don't worry. Right? I pre-booked them before they did. Yeah, it's like, yeah, you guys are just a part of us now. And the things that really stick out to me are Laurie's involvement with the children, because that's my involvement with the church. I remember there was a children's sermon I did, and I had these little fir tree twigs, and I told the kids to just pass them out to everybody. And they did, and then, they kind of all came back to the children's table, but Emmy Kringle still had a basket, and she was still passing them out. I said to everybody, and she was going to make sure everybody got one. And she was barely over being a toddler. So she's walking along with this basket. And she made sure the choir got them. And then she walked up to Laurie, who was preaching, tugged on her robe. Laurie stopped, looked down at her. What is it, dear? She held up the basket. Laurie took the twig. Emmy moved on. And then the sermon continued. But she didn't brush off that child. Never, ever would. And then there's this, I think this may have been Tristan, but we asked the Springhouse pastors to talk to the kids during Sunday school about different aspects of communion. And one of the things that Pastor Laurie was talking to them about was the peace of Christ. And we got to that part in our service, and Tristan said something, and I'm like, what? He said, pizza crust. What? With her southern accent, that's what it sounded like to the kids, was pizza crust. And that's what Tristan greeted us with for several weeks, was pizza crust. And he did it today. All right, he hasn't forgotten. I love it. So, and then there was one morning that Laurie was going to make an announcement, and she misspoke and said something to the effect that you don't count to the congregation. Yes. Oh, yeah, she did. And, you know, there was this huge reaction, and we're all giving her a bad time, and she, you know, she recovered, and we went on with the service. And then she was going to be doing the children's moment, and we were down in the garden sanctuary. So she was going to come back to the table with the kids instead of us going up front. So she comes back, and it was a Whitaker, and I believe again it was Tristan, said, "Do we count?" The answer was yes, you do. But you can't ever tell me they're not paying attention. And they all got that. So we have something we made for you. The royal we.
Yes, we worked really hard on that. Do not trust me with scissors and anyway. I was out of town the weekend the congregation voted to call you. It was time for another concentrated course week at Phillips Theological Seminary, but I had given my proxy to Tom Curry before I left. That Monday morning, I walked into the building, and I walked by a conference room. All of a sudden, I heard, "Dan, come in here." Okay. And in that room was Belva Brown Jordan, Tony Imbler, Reverend Dr. Lisa Davison, Reverend Dr. John Imbler, and Linda Ford. They were all overjoyed that we had called Laurie as our senior pastor. And I can't remember who said it to me, but someone said, "Do you know how lucky you all are that you called her and that you get to serve with Laurie?" No, you don't understand. You don't have any idea. You are in for a rich, wonderful experience. And you know what? They were absolutely right. You have been so much over the past 12 years, mentor, colleague, teacher, friend, fellow troublemaker, road warrior. You taught me that when we show up for justice, you go when we are called. Like that fateful Sunday morning, you turned to me and said, "We are going to Standing Rock and we're leaving in the morning." Not, "Do you want to go to Standing Rock?" It's, "We are going to Standing Rock." You taught me about the holy, beautiful moments of walking with a family in their grief. even in the sadness. You put up with my fear of asking questions early in my ministry here, and you put up with my scattered brainness on a regular basis, and don't leave running. You taught me that pastoral care happens whenever and wherever. Like during the George Floyd uprising when you stayed up so late into the night, I think many nights you did not go to bed, texting back and forth to make sure those of us who lived in the hot spots that we were still okay. You taught me to not be afraid of power tools while doing good work in Detroit neighborhoods. You helped me strengthen my voice in preaching. We collaborated on so much good work, so much good ministry here at First and in the wider denomination, and while we will still do that through Disciples Justice Ministries and Disciples Public Presence, I'm going to miss so much what we did here. You invested in this congregation in so many ways through good times and tough moments, and you invested in my journey. Your tenacious skills at genealogy helped me find my birth family. You performed Keith and mine's wedding in your backyard, and you walked those final years with my late adopted mother when, dear God, I needed a sounding board and not lose my mind. I will miss playing in the bell choir together. And I will miss joking about your favorite note. And what is it, everybody? D flat. I will miss those texts at all hours of the day. Hey, I've had a great idea. What if we do X in our next worship series? And you know what? You're not going to have to say you're muted that much anymore. There's so much more I could say, but we'd be here all day, and we don't need to do that. So let me end with this. I am a better pastor because of your mentorship and friendship. And I will carry those things in my life for the days and years to come. Enjoy your grandkids. Enjoy sleeping in. And enjoy everything that goes with that. And thank you for saying yes and coming north to the frozen tundra 12 years ago. It has been an amazing and wonderful 12 years of ministry together. And as the great drag queen RuPaul says, you better look at enjoying retirement. And now, I would like to invite the chair of our trustees, Anna Bliss, and the co-chair of our board, Martha Harris, to come forward.
The moment in the worship service when I did lose it was seeing Margaret talking to us from her hospital bed yesterday. Margaret is a co-chair with me, and I didn't know Margaret very well, but I got to know her over the phone, and she is an amazing person. And we've been talking a lot every couple of days, and so her presence is, those of us who know her, she is here, and that was quite a moment. Anna is the
donkey.
Is a donkey. and oh yeah, the chairman of the trustees department, and oh yeah, the chairman of the search committee. So she's got a role, and we just wanted that other part of this co-chairpersonship to be represented that way. Okay.
And a donkey.
And a donkey, right? And you can e-haul at any time you want. I'll try not to read this so fast that you can't hear, but I'm going to go fast because I'm ready to get done, and my dog's waiting for me at home. There's a quality of Laurie that I'm going to mention that oddly, she's the only one that's even touched on this at all this morning. I do think Brian might know a little bit about what I'm going to point out, but that Laurie can make you mad. And she can get mad at you, too. she can get mad at you, too. I'm not going to go into details about disagreements, and I want to make this point about it. I learned something through her. I learned that over the years, she is not easily persuaded to back down from what she thinks is the best way to do things. I am a very conflict-averse person, and I need a little bit of Laurie's grit. So I admire and respect her ability to go hard after what she wants, whether or not it makes people mad or not. I think we would be remiss without noting what was one of the high points of Laurie's ministry here at a low point in the world, March 2020. Laurie, along with Dan and many other church leaders in our church, pivoted to keeping our church alive when we were all locked in our homes. By the end of March 2020, we had online worship services, online adult ed, online committee meetings, and amazingly, online fellowship 4 days a week through coffee and happy hours. All of which are still going on today. Now, that is an amazing fact. But who can forget the tutus and the cowboy boots and the dance parties, Justin, and the attention-grabbing moments in our stream Sunday morning services. In the summer of 2020, we had a talent show, which featured music and poetry and caterpillar wrangling. And Laurie, as a new Minnesotan, loves the state fair more than any person in this state. So we had First Christian Church's own state fair. And there were categories of winners and such things as best duct tape art, best butter carving of a horse, and best caprese salad on a stick. It was a crazy time, but now we are solidly committed to a hybrid church with services and activities in person and online. Laurie and Dan are even giving workshops to other churches about First Christian Church's model of how to survive and thrive in a changed post-pandemic world. She did that. And I will touch on something that Caroline mentioned, but I think it's core. And the first thing I said to her on the Sunday she told me she was retiring, I said, "Oh, what a great preacher you have been, Laurie." From the beginning of her ministry, her sermons are deep dives into biblical texts that open them to new understandings of their meanings and then lead us to see how they directly apply to the world we live in today. She always provides the historical background for her sermon text that invariably sheds a whole new light on the meaning of words we have heard over and over all our lives. Her sermons can make you laugh. She did that this morning. She didn't do this so much, but they can make you squirm a lot. And her sermons can paint a painful picture of the troubled times we are living in. But her sermons are almost always leave us with a sense of hope and a sense of commitment to live out the meaning of that biblical text in our own lives. So thank you for that, Laurie. And now would you come forward?
This is most certainly true. Good job. I'm getting into my Lutheran self there, just for a minute.
Laurie, from all that we've heard about you this morning, this afternoon, late this afternoon, it is crystal clear what a gift you have been to everyone you have ministered to and ministered with. Now, on behalf of the members of First Christian Church, Minneapolis, I present our love gift to you, a small symbol of the gifts you have brought to us, and we wish you blessings to you and Brian as you embark on the next stage of your life.
I didn't know it was yet to come this morning.
Okay, my turn. Would you like for me to preach my sermon again? Be here even longer? Terry, you have a flight to catch, so yeah. I don't even really know what to say. Oh my gosh, Peter, hi. Sorry. Another member of our Downtown Interfaith Senior Clergy Group. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all of you who spoke and shared words. Some of y'all really stretched it, by the way. I mean, you made me sound a lot better than I am, so thank you. I appreciate it, and it was an adjustment to move up here 12 years ago, but it's one that I will never regret. We miss our kids, we miss our grandkids, we miss good Mexican food, we miss being able to plant plants in February or March, and we miss things like that, but there's something about this congregation, there's something about Springhouse. There's something about Minneapolis and Minnesota that has gotten in our hearts. I think mainly because of all of you. You've shown us, as I said in my sermon, you've shown me what it means to love God and love neighbor and love self. I thought I knew, but it wasn't until I came up here that I saw it even more clearly. And I thank you for that. For all of my colleagues at Springhouse, gosh, y'all were really kind. We could have told some stories, right? Inside stories or like inside voice or outside voice, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna miss serving with you more than you'll know. I also know we'll still serve together out in the streets of Minneapolis. There's no doubt we will. To the staff, oh my goodness, Dan, I can't even begin, or I will start crying. We have grown so much in our ministry together, and I have learned from you. It's not just a one-way street. We have done this together, and I look forward to doing more justice work with you. And thank you for all the support and all that you did for today, and all you've done any of the times when I've just been like, okay, can we make this work? And somehow you and Deb and Caroline just make it work. Deb and Caroline, where are you? Yeah, thank you. Deb, honestly, your phone call is what brought me here. And you've kept me here when I did think it's time to head south. Thank you for all your creativity, for all your wisdom, for being there all those moments when I just needed a listening ear. You were it. Caroline, all the music we've made together, all the fun we've had in choir. You are much more than just the music director of the church. You are my friend, just like Dan and Deb. Y'all are my family. And that's something I want to say to all of you. Brian and I don't have any family up here. When we moved here, it was just Brian and me, and all of you became our family. Springhouse became our family. Every single member of this church became our family. And so saying goodbye is like saying goodbye to our family. But I also know that we've been separated from our family distance-wise for over 12 years, and I know we're still connected, and we still see them, and we still love them, and they love us. And the same is true for us. We will always be connected. We will always share the ministry that we shared together. Nobody else can share it except us because we're the ones that experienced it. And I think I got the better end of the deal because I got all of you. You only got me, right? You got one person. I got all of you. And I think I got the better end of the deal. I love y'all more than you know. I am, as Terry said, I am very excited about whatever is ahead for First Christian because I know that it's, as I said, filled with goodness and love and excitement. And I can't wait to see what you're doing a year from now, 2 years from now, and all the great ministry. Know I'm cheering you on, and I love you, and I cannot thank you enough the leadership of the church, my PRC, everybody that's been board chair, everybody that's been elder chair, all of the leadership positions. You've got my undying thanks and gratitude for all that you have done. And that's all I'm going to say. I love y'all. Bye.